The wax seal cracked under Magistrate Holden's thumb like ice splitting, and Brenna Marrick knew her life was about to change before he even unrolled the parchment. She stood in the stone room that served as both office and court for the border holding, her hands clasped behind her back in the posture she had learned 9 years ago when she first arrived. Through the narrow window, she could see the autumn fields stretching toward the forest line, gold and brown under a gray sky. 9 years. She had been 17 when they sent her here, small for an orc even then, with hands too quick and a temperament too quiet for the warrior work her cousins took to naturally. The holding had needed a peace ward, a living promise that her clan would honor the treaty. She had volunteered before anyone could suggest her sister instead. The treaty period expires at midwinter, Holden said, not looking up from the document. He was a tired man in his 50s, fair in his judgments but indifferent to the lives those judgments touched. The new terms have been ratified. You will be transferred to the northern holding at Greymark on the 1st of the month. They require a ward for the next term. The words landed like stones. Brenna felt her breath catch, but she kept her face still. Greymark is 3 weeks' ride. 4 in winter. He rolled the parchment closed again. You will have an escort, naturally. Your service here has been satisfactory. I have written as much in my report. Satisfactory. 9 years reduced to a single word, as if she were a plow horse being evaluated for resale. She thought of the garden she had planted behind the barracks, the small herbs and vegetables she tended. She thought of the children in the village who had stopped running from her after the first year, who now waved when she passed. She thought of the holding's male rider, with his easy grin and his endless stories from the road, who treated her like a person instead of a political instrument. She thought of Peter Xander, and her heart clenched. I understand, she said, because what else could she say? She was a ward, not a resident. She had always known this. Holden dismissed her with a nod, already reaching for the next document on his desk. Brenna walked out into the corridor, her boots silent on the flagstones. The holding was a modest fortification, built more for administration than defense, with thick walls and practical rooms that smelled of wood smoke and old paper. She had learned every corner of it. The kitchen where cook slipped her extra bread. The library where she had taught herself to read common better. The stable where Peter kept his horses and told her about the strange people he met on his routes. The stable. He would be there now, preparing for tomorrow's mail run. He always was, in the late afternoon, checking tack and humoring his horses with apples and carrots. Brenna walked across the courtyard, pulling her cloak tighter against the wind. She should go to her room. She should pack her few belongings and prepare for the transfer like a sensible person. Instead, her feet carried her to the stable doors, drawn by a need she had never allowed herself to name. The smell of hay and horse welcomed her. Peter was in the 3rd stall, brushing down his bay mare, humming something tuneless. He looked up when her shadow crossed the doorway, and his face split into that familiar smile, the one that had undone her 1,000 times over the years. Brenna, come to admire my excellent work. Look at this coat. Absolutely gleaming. I am a master of my craft. He was tall for a human, lean and rangy, with brown hair that never quite stayed where he combed it and gray eyes that saw more than his playful manner suggested. 28 years old, according to the records, though he acted younger when he wanted to. He wore riding leathers and a linen shirt, both well made but worn from use. He had been the holding's courier for 6 years, riding the mail routes between the border settlements, bringing news and letters and gossip. He had also been her friend, her only real friend since the first week he arrived and found her sitting alone in the mess hall. You look serious, he said now, setting down the brush. Did Holden finally crack a smile? Did the world end? The treaty term is ending. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. I am being transferred to Greymark in 3 weeks. Peter went very still. The mare shifted, nosing his shoulder, but he did not move. Greymark. Yes. That is across the territory. That is the cold edge of nowhere. Yes. He was quiet for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then he picked up the brush again and resumed grooming, his movements careful and deliberate. Well, they will be lucky to have you. Probably have no idea how to grow a proper garden up there. You will have to teach them. Something in her chest broke. She had expected him to make a joke, to tease her, to do what he always did and turn everything light. This careful politeness was worse. It meant he was hiding what he really felt, and she could not bear it. Not now. Not when she had so little time left. Peter. His name felt strange in her mouth, too intimate, though she had said it 100 times. I do not want to go. He looked up, surprise flickering across his face. Then tell Holden, appeal the transfer. I have no grounds. I am a ward. I go where the treaty requires. That is nonsense. You are a person, not a— He stopped, jaw tightening. I will talk to him. No. She stepped into the stall, close enough to see the gold flecks in his eyes. It will not help. He does not make these decisions. The Magistrate Council does, and they only see what I represent on paper. Then what do you want me to say, Brenna? His voice roughened, something real breaking through the charm. That I will miss you. I will. That this place will be duller without you. It will. That I think this is a stupid, cruel system that treats people like game pieces. I think that every single day. Her throat tightened. She had loved him for years in silence, watching him ride out and return, listening to his stories, hoarding every smile he gave her like a miser hoarded gold. She had never said anything because what was the point? She was an orc and he was human. She was a ward and he was free. The distance between them was written into law and custom, unbridgeable, but she was leaving anyway. She would be sent away to another holding, another set of strangers, another 9 years of being satisfactory. What did she have to lose? The rain started as she opened her mouth, a sudden drumming on the stable roof. Peter glanced up at the sound, and when he looked back at her, something in his face had shifted, some wall coming down. Brenna, he said quietly, what do you want? The question hung between them, huge and terrifying. What did she want? She wanted to stay. She wanted to matter to someone, not as a treaty obligation, but as herself. She wanted to wake up in a place she chose, to plant a garden that would still be there next year, to hear his voice every day instead of carrying the memory of it like a wound. She wanted him. The words came out in a rush, her voice breaking. Take me far from here, please. Peter stared at her. The rain poured down harder, turning the courtyard to mud, drowning out everything but the thunder of water on wood and thatch. Brenna felt her face heat, shame and hope warring in her chest. She had said too much. She had ruined the one good thing in her life by asking for more than she deserved. Then Peter crossed the space between them and took her hands in his. His palms were warm, calloused from rains and weather. He looked at her like she was something precious, something worth keeping, and her heart hammered so hard she thought it might break her ribs. Yes, he said. Yes, all right. We leave tonight. She could not breathe. What? You heard me. We leave tonight. I have 2 horses, supplies for a week on the road. We can be past the border by dawn if we ride hard. You want to be far from here. I will take you as far as you want to go. Peter, you cannot just— Cannot what? Leave? I am a courier. I leave all the time. This time I just will not come back. He was grinning now, that reckless, brilliant grin that meant he was serious. Pack what you can carry. Meet me at the south gate after the watch changes. Wear dark colors. This is insane. Probably. Are you coming or not? She should say no. She should be sensible and accept her transfer and live out her duty like she had promised 9 years ago. But Peter was looking at her like she was the adventure he had been waiting for, and she had been sensible her entire life. It had brought her nothing but loneliness. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I am coming." His grin widened. "Good. Now go, before someone notices you are conspiring with the male rider. I have a reputation to maintain." She left the stable in a daze, the rain soaking through her cloak in seconds. Her mind raced. What did she need to bring? Her spare clothes, her few coins, the book Peter had given her last winter. Not much. She had never accumulated much. The hours until the watch change were the longest of her life. She sat in her small room, her pack ready, listening to the sounds of the holding settling for the night. Footsteps in the corridor, voices in the courtyard, the bell tolling the hour. Each sound made her jump, certain that someone had discovered their plan, but no one came. Why would they? She was just a ward, satisfactory and unremarkable, who had never caused trouble in 9 years. When the bell struck midnight, she slipped out of her room and made her way through the darkened corridors. The south gate was used mainly for supply wagons, less watched than the main entrance. Peter was already there, holding the reins of 2 horses, both saddled and loaded. He had changed into darker clothes, his courier's satchel slung across his chest. "Ready?" he asked softly. She nodded, not trusting her voice. He handed her the reins of the smaller horse, a gray gelding she recognized from the stable. She mounted, settling her pack behind the saddle, and followed Peter through the gate into the rainy night. They rode in silence for the first hour, keeping to the back roads, avoiding the main trade route. The rain eased to a drizzle, then stopped altogether, leaving the world smelling of wet earth and new growth. The moon broke through the clouds, silvering the fields and forests. Brenna kept glancing back, expecting pursuit, but the road behind them stayed empty. Peter rode with easy confidence, navigating by moonlight and memory. He seemed utterly calm, as if he fled into the night with fugitive wards every week. "You are very good at this," she said finally. He glanced back at her, eyebrow raised. "At running away. I am a man of many talents." "Have you done this before? Run away with a beautiful orc woman in the middle of the night? You would be the first." Heat flooded her face. "I meant leaving suddenly." "I know what you meant." His grin was audible in his voice. "And no, not quite like this. But I have avoided awkward situations on the road more than once. Angry husbands, unpaid tavern bills, that sort of thing. The trick is to look like you are supposed to be there, wherever you are. People rarely question confidence." "Is that what you are doing now?" "Looking like you are supposed to be fleeing with me." "Exactly." He sobered slightly. "Brenna, are you all right? Truly, this is a big decision." She thought about it, testing her feelings like probing a sore tooth. Was she all right? She had left behind the only home she had known for 9 years. She had abandoned her duty, broken her word. Her clan would face questions. The holding would have to explain her absence. She had complicated everything, and she felt lighter than she had in years. "I am all right," she said. "I am better than all right." "Good. Because there is no going back now." "Well, technically we could go back, but it would be very embarrassing and they would probably lock you up until the transfer, so let us agree not to do that." They rode on through the night, putting miles between themselves and the holding. Peter kept up a steady stream of conversation, telling her about the roads ahead, the villages they would pass, the strange people he had met in his travels. A farmer who raised chickens that could predict the weather. A blacksmith who made horseshoes in the shape of good luck charms. A widow who ran an inn and claimed to have been courted by a prince in her youth, though no one believed her. Brenna listened, letting his voice wash over her, feeling something in her chest unknot for the first time in longer than she could remember. She had spent 9 years being careful, being quiet, being satisfactory. Now she was riding through the dark with a man who made her laugh, who had said yes without hesitation when she asked for help, who called her beautiful like it was simple fact. She did not know what would happen next. She did not know where they were going or how they would live. But for now, in this moment, she was free. They stopped at dawn to rest the horses and eat. Peter had packed bread and cheese and dried meat, which they ate sitting on a fallen log beside a stream. The sun rose pink and gold over the hills, burning off the last of the clouds. Birds sang in the trees. It was beautiful in an ordinary way, and Brenna felt tears prick her eyes for no reason she could name. "So," Peter said, tearing off a piece of bread, "where do you want to go?" She had not thought that far ahead. "I do not know. Where are we going?" "Well, my plan was to ride until you told me to stop. Very detailed, very strategic. I am an excellent planner, Peter." All right, we are heading roughly west. There are settlements out that way, farmsteads and small towns. Places where people do not ask too many questions. We could find work, settle somewhere for a while, or keep moving if you prefer. I am adaptable. You would do that, just wander from place to place." He looked at her, his expression open and honest in the dawn light. "Brenna, I have been a courier for 6 years. I have been wandering from place to place my entire adult life. The only difference now is that I get to choose where I go and I have better company. What about your work?" "The holding will need a new male rider. They will hire someone. There are always people looking for that kind of work." He hesitated, then added more quietly, "I was not planning to stay forever anyway. The job was fine, but it was not a life, just a way to keep moving. And now? Now I am still moving, just in a direction I chose." He smiled at her, that easy, devastating smile. "Eat your breakfast. We have a long ride ahead." They rode west for 2 more days, following back roads and deer trails, avoiding the larger settlements. Peter proved as resourceful as he claimed, finding safe places to camp, supplementing their food with fish from streams and berries from hedgerows. He treated the whole thing like an adventure, pointing out landmarks and making up absurd stories about their origins. "That rock there, the tall one. That is where a giant sat down to rest and turned to stone when the sun rose. Very tragic. His wife is the mountain behind us. They can never touch. That is ridiculous. It is called mythology, Brenna. Show some respect." She found herself laughing more than she had in years, the sound strange and light in her own ears. Peter seemed to delight in making her laugh, spinning his stories more and more outrageous, until she had to beg him to stop because her sides hurt. At night they camped under the stars, talking until the fire burned low. Peter told her about his childhood in a southern town, the son of a carpenter and a seamstress, both dead now. He had joined the courier service at 20, restless and grieving, needing to be anywhere but home. He had been riding ever since. "What about you?" he asked. "You have never talked much about your clan." Brenna stirred the coals with a stick, watching the sparks drift up into the darkness. "There is not much to tell. We live in the borderlands, farming mostly, some hunting. My family is large. I have 3 brothers and 2 sisters, more cousins than I can count. I was the odd one, too small for heavy work, too restless for domestic work. When the holding needed a ward, it seemed like a solution for everyone." "You volunteered?" "Yes. My sister Beatrice had just married. She had a baby on the way. I did not want her to go. So you went instead?" "Yes." Peter was quiet for a moment. "You protected her." "I did what made sense." "That is not the same thing." He poked at the fire, his face thoughtful in the firelight. "You spent 9 years of your life in a stone box, being satisfactory so your sister could have a family. That is not just sensible. That is love. Brenna felt her throat tighten. She had never thought of it that way. It had just been the obvious choice, the only choice. Beatrice was older, more important to the clan's future. Brenna was expendable. "You think they will be all right?" she asked. "My family, when they learn I am gone. I think they will be confused and then worried and then glad that you chose yourself for once." Peter met her eyes across the fire. "You were not happy there, Brenna. Anyone paying attention could see that. You were paying attention. Always." The word hung between them, weighted with something more than friendship. Peter looked away first, clearing his throat. "Anyway, we should sleep. Long ride tomorrow." They settled into their bedrolls on opposite sides of the fire, the proper distance for traveling companions. Brenna lay awake, staring up at the stars, thinking about that single word. Always. What did it mean? Peter flirted with everyone, charmed everyone. It was his nature, like breathing. She could not assume it meant anything more for her, but he had left everything for her. He had said yes without hesitation, had risked his livelihood and his future on a rainy stable floor because she asked. That had to mean something. She fell asleep still wondering and woke to the smell of Peter cooking something over the rebuilt fire. He grinned at her, waving a skillet. "Eggs, found a farmstead about a mile back and traded a letter delivery for breakfast. I am a genius. You are a thief. I am a negotiator. Eat." The eggs were good, fresh and rich, cooked with wild onions Peter had found. They ate quickly and packed up camp, ready to ride again. The morning was clear and cool, perfect traveling weather. Brenna felt almost giddy with freedom, with the sheer impossibility of what they were doing. That feeling lasted until mid-afternoon, when her mind finally caught up with her heart. They had stopped to water the horses at a stream when it hit her. She was standing in the shallows, watching the current slide past, when the full weight of what she had done crashed down like a collapsing roof. She had broken the treaty, not just bent it, not just skirted the edges. She had shattered it completely. A ward abandoning their post was a treaty violation. Her clan would be held responsible. The magistrates would demand answers, reparations. They might declare the entire agreement void, and Beatrice with her husband and her children, living peacefully in the borderlands because the treaty guaranteed safety. If the treaty broke, what would happen to them? Would the human settlements see them as enemies again? Would her family be driven out, forced to flee or fight? Brenna. "You all right?" Peter was watching her from the bank, concern creasing his forehead. She realized she was standing frozen in the stream, her hands clenched into fists. "I have to go back," she said. "What?" "I have to go back." "Peter, I am sorry. I did not think I was selfish. I just wanted," her voice cracked. "If I abandon my post, they will think my clan broke the treaty. There will be consequences. My sister, her family, they could be in danger." Peter waded into the stream toward her. "Brenna, slow down, explain." She forced herself to breathe, to think clearly through the panic. "The treaty requires a ward from my clan at all times. That is the agreement. If I am not there, if I have fled, the human settlements will see it as a betrayal. They will demand justice. My family will pay the price." "But you were being transferred. You were not abandoning anything, you were just— It does not matter what I intended. What matters is what it looks like. An orc ward disappears. The holding has no explanation. It looks like I ran. It looks like my clan cannot be trusted." She met his eyes, feeling her heart break all over again. "I have to go back. I have to return before the transfer date, before they report me missing." Peter's face went through several expressions: frustration, understanding, resignation. "You are sure?" "Yes." He was quiet for a long moment, the water rushing around their legs. Then he nodded slowly. "All right, we go back." "Peter, you do not have to. Do not be ridiculous. Of course I am coming. You think I am going to let you ride back alone and face whatever punishment they devise? We are in this together. You will be in trouble too, probably. I am excellent at being in trouble. He took her hand, his grip steady and warm. Brenna, listen to me. I knew this was a risk when we left. I knew it was complicated. I do not regret it, do you? Did she regret it? 2 days of freedom, of laughter, of feeling like a person instead of a political instrument. 2 days of watching Peter smile at her across a campfire, of riding through country she had never seen, of choosing her own path. No, she said. I do not regret it. Then we have nothing to apologize for. We go back, we face the consequences, we figure out what comes next. Together. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to think that going back would not mean the end of everything they had started, but she knew how the world worked. She would be sent to Greymark, probably under heavier guard this time. Peter would be dismissed from the courier service, possibly fined or jailed for aiding her desertion. They would be separated, and that would be the end of it, but she had no choice. She could not let her family suffer for her selfishness. All right, she said. We go back. They turned the horses around and rode east, retracing their path. The journey that had felt like liberation now felt like a death march. Brenna kept her eyes on the road ahead, trying not to think about what awaited them. Peter tried to keep her spirits up with conversation, but his heart was not in it. They both knew how this would end. They reached the holding on the evening of the 3rd day, the walls dark against the sunset. Brenna's stomach churned with dread and regret. She wanted to turn around and run again, to keep running until they reached the edge of the world. But she dismounted and led her horse through the gate, Peter beside her. The guards recognized them immediately. Within minutes they were standing in Magistrate Holden's office, mud-stained and exhausted, while the magistrate stared at them with cold fury. You abandoned your post, he said to Brenna. You, a ward under treaty obligation, fled in the night like a common criminal. I came back, Brenna said quietly. You came back after 3 days. 3 days during which we had no idea if you were alive or dead, kidnapped or killed. 3 days during which I had to send word to the council that we had lost our ward. Brenna's heart sank. He had already reported it. The damage was done. I will accept any punishment, she said, but please do not hold my clan responsible. This was my choice alone. Your choice has consequences beyond yourself. That is what it means to be a ward. Holden turned his glare to Peter. And you aided her desertion. You, an officer of this holding, helped a treaty ward flee her duty. Give me one reason why I should not have you arrested. Peter met his gaze steadily. Because I am going to fix it. Fix it? There is no fixing this. The damage is done. There is always a fix, you just have to be creative. Peter straightened, his usual charm dropping away to reveal something harder underneath, something purposeful. The treaty allows for substitution, does it not? If a ward cannot serve, another may take their place, provided they are of equal standing. Holden frowned. That clause has never been invoked. It is meant for cases of death or incapacitation. But it exists. It is part of the treaty language. Yes, but then I invoke it. I will serve as ward in Brenna's place. Silence filled the room. Brenna stared at Peter, her mind refusing to process the words. He could not be serious. He could not possibly mean that is absurd, Holden said. You are human. The entire point of an orc ward is to guarantee the good behavior of the orc clans. The point is to exchange guarantees. To hold something valuable to ensure peace. Brenna is valuable to her clan. I can be valuable too if I go to them as a ward. Peter's voice was calm, reasonable, as if he were discussing a mail route instead of his own imprisonment. Send me to her clan's camp. Let me live among them as she lived among us. 1 season, the same term she was meant to serve at Greymark. When the term ends, she is released from her obligation and I return. The treaty is satisfied. This is unprecedented. So was losing a war to desertion. We are in uncharted territory either way. My way, at least, everyone gets what they want. The treaty is honored, the clans see that humans are willing to offer the same trust we demand, and Brenna is free. Holden looked between them, clearly calculating. Brenna wanted to scream, to shake Peter, to demand why he would offer such a thing. Living as a ward in an orc camp, surrounded by people who had every reason to resent him, isolated and watched and judged every moment. It was exactly what she had endured for 9 years, only worse, because he would be alone among people who did not even speak his language well. "Why would you do this?" Holden asked, echoing her thoughts. Peter glanced at Brenna, and something in his expression made her breath catch. "Because she asked me to take her far from here. I meant it. This is how we get her free. You would trade your freedom for hers." "Yes." Holden sat back in his chair, fingers steepled, thinking. The silence stretched until Brenna wanted to scream. "I will send word to the council," he said finally, "and to Brenna's clan. They must agree to accept you. If they refuse, this plan fails and you both face trial for treaty violation." "They will agree," Peter said with confidence Brenna did not share. "We will see. In the meantime, you are both confined to the holding. Brenna, you will return to your quarters. Peter, you will be held in the guardhouse. No contact between you until this is resolved." Guards escorted them out separately. Brenna tried to catch Peter's eye to say something, anything, but he was already gone, disappearing down a different corridor. She was taken to her small room and locked in, alone with her spiraling thoughts. He had offered himself as a ward. For her. Because she had asked him to take her away, and he had found the only legal path to make it happen. She sat on her narrow bed and cried for the first time since she was a child, great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. She cried for the freedom she had tasted and lost, for the impossible thing Peter had done, for the fact that she loved him and had never said it, and now he would be sent to her clan, and she would not see him for months, and it was all her fault. When the tears finally stopped, she lay in the dark and tried to think. Peter's plan could work legally. The treaty language did allow for substitution. But would her clan agree? They had no reason to trust a human ward, especially not after she had abandoned her post. They might refuse out of principle or fear or simple confusion, unless she convinced them. The thought crystallized slowly. She could not send word from here, locked in her room. But if the magistrates sent a message to her clan, it would be official and cold, full of legal language and demands. They would refuse on instinct, seeing it as another human attempt to control them. But if she went herself, if she stood before her family and explained, they might listen. They might understand. She had to try. When the guard brought her dinner, she asked to speak to the magistrate. The guard looked skeptical but agreed to pass the message. An hour later, Brenna was back in Holden's office, standing before his desk while he regarded her with weary irritation. "What now?" "Let me go to my clan," she said. "Let me explain what happened and ask them to accept Peter as ward. They will not agree to a message from you, but they might agree for me. You expect me to let you leave the holding again, under guard if necessary. But yes, this is the only way Peter's plan works, and you know it." Holden considered her for a long moment. "And if they refuse?" "If you convince them to reject the substitution, then I will return and face trial. I give you my word, your word which you broke when you fled." Brenna flinched but held her ground. "I came back. I am here, asking for a chance to make this right. That has to count for something." He sighed, suddenly looking older and more tired. "You care for him, the courier?" It was not a question, but Brenna answered anyway. "Yes." This is why the treaty forbids fraternization between wards and holding staff. It creates exactly this kind of complication. I know. He is giving up his freedom for you. Do you understand that? A full term may be longer if the council extends it. He will live in your clan's camp under constant watch, unable to leave, unable to choose his own path. That is what you are asking him to endure. I am not asking. He offered. And you will let him. Brenna met the magistrate's eyes. I will do everything I can to make his sacrifice worth it. I will go to my clan and convince them to treat him fairly, to give him a chance. And when his term is over, I will be waiting. Holden was quiet for another long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Very well. You will leave at first light with an armed escort. You have 3 days to gain your clan's agreement. If you succeed, we proceed with the substitution. If you fail, you return for trial. Is that acceptable? Yes, thank you. Do not thank me yet. This may still end badly for all of us. Brenna was escorted back to her room. She did not sleep that night, too keyed up with nerves and hope and fear. When dawn came, she was ready, her small pack refilled with necessities. The guards took her to the courtyard where horses waited. She mounted, expecting them to leave immediately. Instead, the guard captain gestured toward the stable, and Peter emerged, flanked by 2 more guards. He looked tired but steady, still wearing the same mud-stained clothes from their journey. When he saw her, his face lit up with that familiar smile, and Brenna felt something in her chest settle. They are letting me come with you, he said as the guards brought him closer. Apparently I am part of the negotiation. Lucky me. Peter, I know what you are going to say. You are going to tell me I do not have to do this, that you will find another way. Save it. His voice was gentle but firm. This is the way, Brenna. The only way that gets you free and keeps the treaty intact. I am making this choice with open eyes. You will hate it. Being a ward is what you did for 9 years. I can manage 1 season. He reached out, and after a hesitation, the guard captain allowed him to take her hand. His fingers were warm and solid around hers. Trust me, I am adaptable, remember. Why are you doing this? The question came out as a whisper. Peter looked at her, really looked at her, and she saw past the charm and the jokes to something true and deep underneath. Because I have been in love with you since the first year I arrived, he said quietly. Because watching you leave for Greymark was unthinkable. Because you asked me to take you far from here, and this is how I do it. I give you a season of my life so you can have the rest of yours. Brenna could not breathe. The world had narrowed to his gray eyes, his hand in hers, the impossible words hanging between them. You loved me, I love you, present tense, ongoing condition. His smile was crooked, self-deprecating. I thought you knew, I thought I was obvious. You flirt with everyone. I am charming to everyone. I only love you. He squeezed her hand. I would have told you eventually, but you always seemed content to keep things as they were, and I did not want to ruin our friendship. Then you asked me to run away with you, and I thought maybe you felt the same. Do you? She wanted to tell him everything, how she had loved him for years, how his smile was the best part of her day, how the thought of leaving him had hurt more than any other part of the transfer. But the guards were watching, and the words tangled in her throat. Yes, she managed. Yes, I feel the same. His grin could have lit the whole courtyard. Well then, good, that simplifies things. It does not simplify anything. You are about to become a ward for a season. A season is not forever. We can wait that long. We have already waited this long without saying anything, so technically we are excellent at waiting. Despite everything, Brenna laughed. You are ridiculous. And you love me anyway. How convenient. The guard captain cleared his throat pointedly. If you are finished, we have a schedule to keep. They rode out together, heading northeast toward the borderlands where Brenna's clan made their camps. The journey would take 2 days, maybe 3. Peter kept up his usual stream of commentary, pointing out landmarks and telling stories, but now Brenna heard it differently. Now she knew that the attention, the care he took to make her laugh, was not just friendliness. It was love. He loved her. He had loved her for years, and she had never noticed because she had assumed it was impossible. They camped that night in a clearing beside a river, the guards setting up a perimeter while Peter and Brenna sat by the fire. The guards had relaxed slightly, allowing them to talk, though they were clearly listening. "What is your clan like?" Peter asked, feeding sticks to the flames. "You have never really described them." Brenna thought about how to explain her family to someone who had never met an orc. "They are farmers, mostly. We grow grain and vegetables, raise some livestock. There are about 50 of us in the main camp, extended family. My mother is the clan elder, makes most of the decisions. My father died when I was young, hunting accident. I am sorry. It was a long time ago. Beatrice took care of me after that, her and my aunts. She is the oldest, the responsible one. I am the odd one who did not quite fit. You fit with me." The simple statement warmed her more than the fire. "What will you do? In the camp, I mean. How will you survive a whole season?" Peter shrugged. "Same way you survived 9 years at the holding. I will work, learn, make myself useful. Your people are farmers, you said. I can learn farming. I am good with my hands and I learn fast. They will not trust you at first. They will watch you constantly, waiting for you to fail or betray them. Then I will not fail or betray them. Brenna, I know this will not be easy, but I am not going into it blind. I watched you for 6 years, saw how you handled being a ward. You were patient, useful, kind. You won people over slowly. I can do the same. I never won Holden over. Holden is a stone. You won over everyone who mattered, the staff, the villagers, me." He smiled at her across the fire. "You taught me what strength looks like. Now I get to use those lessons." They talked late into the night, about the clan, about the holding, about the strange path that had brought them to this moment. When they finally slept, the guards kept watch, and Brenna dreamed of a future that felt almost possible. They reached the borderlands on the afternoon of the second day. Brenna's clan made their main camp in a river valley, fertile land that they had negotiated the rights to farm as part of the treaty. The camp came into view as they crested a hill, a collection of sturdy timber buildings and tents, smoke rising from cooking fires, children playing in the open spaces between homes. Brenna felt her chest tighten with emotions she could not name. She had not been home in 9 years. She had left as a girl of 17 and returned as a woman of 26, changed in ways her family would not recognize. The clan noticed them coming before they reached the camp. By the time they rode in, a crowd had gathered, orcs of all ages, green-skinned and strong, watching the visitors with wary suspicion. Brenna scanned the faces, looking for her family. "Brenna," the voice was achingly familiar. Beatrice pushed through the crowd, older than Brenna remembered, her face lined with time and weather, but unmistakably her sister. Behind her came 2 children, a boy of about 8 and a girl of 6, both staring at Brenna with wide eyes. Brenna dismounted and found herself pulled into a crushing embrace. Beatrice smelled like wood smoke and bread and home, and Brenna had to blink back tears. "What are you doing here?" Beatrice demanded, pulling back to look at her. "We heard you were being transferred to Greymark." "Did something happen?" "Yes, something happened. I need to speak to Mother and the elders. It is urgent." Beatrice glanced at Peter and the guards, clearly confused, but she nodded. "Come, I will take you to her." The clan parted to let them through, murmurs following in their wake. Brenna was intensely aware of Peter beside her, tall and human and utterly out of place among her people. He walked with his head up, polite and calm, meeting curious stares with a slight nod. They reached the largest building in the camp, a long hall built of timber and stone. Inside, Brenna's mother sat at a table reviewing what looked like crop records. She looked up as they entered, and her expression cycled through surprise, confusion, and sharp assessment in the span of seconds. "Brenna, explain." So Brenna explained. She told her mother and the assembled elders everything: the transfer, her desperate plea, the flight, the return, the treaty violation, and Peter's offer to serve as a ward in her place. She spoke plainly, leaving out nothing, including her own feelings for Peter. When she finished, the hall was silent. Her mother stared at her, expression unreadable. Finally, she spoke. "You fled your duty, you put the treaty at risk, you put this entire clan at risk. I know, I am sorry, I came back to make it right. By bringing a human here as ward. You think that makes this right? I think it is the only solution that satisfies the treaty and gives us all a future." Brenna took a breath. "Mother, I served 9 years. 9 years of my life given to keep this clan safe. I do not regret it, but I cannot do it anymore. This man offered to take my place so I could be free. The magistrate is willing to accept the substitution if you are. Please, consider it." Her mother turned her gaze to Peter, who stood quietly beside Brenna. "You, human, why would you do this?" Peter met her eyes steadily. "Because I love your daughter and she has given enough. It is someone else's turn. You love her." The words were flat, skeptical. "An orc." "Yes, madam. You would live here among us as our prisoner for love, and because it is the right thing to do. The treaty should go both ways. If you send your people to live among us as wards, we should be willing to do the same. It builds trust. Or it puts a spy in our midst. If I were a spy, I am a terrible one. I am a male courier, not a soldier or a diplomat. I know roads and horses, not military strategy. You would learn that quickly." One of the elders, a scarred old orc named Gren, leaned forward. "What would you do here? We have no use for a courier." "Then I will do whatever work you need. I can learn. I am strong enough and I am willing." "You are human. You will not survive the work." "Then I will die trying. But I do not think you want that any more than I do. A dead human ward would cause more problems than a living one." Gren huffed, but there was a glint of respect in his eyes. "You have courage, at least." "Stupidity, but courage." The elders conferred among themselves in the orc tongue, low voices debating. Brenna's mother watched Peter the entire time, her expression still unreadable. Beatrice stood beside Brenna, gripping her arm, offering silent support. Finally, the elders reached consensus. Brenna's mother nodded slowly. "We will accept the substitution," she said, "on the condition that the human survives the full term. If he dies, flees, or proves unsuitable, the treaty is void and your clan liability returns." "Brenna, I understand. He will work as we work. He will live as we live. He will be watched at all times. If he causes trouble, he will face our justice, not yours." "Agreed," Peter said. "Then it is settled." Brenna's mother stood, formal and imposing. "The human will stay. You, Brenna, are released from your ward obligation. The holdings guards may return and inform the magistrate. We will send word when the term is complete." Brenna felt dizzy with relief and fear. It was done. Peter would stay and she would be free. But the thought of leaving him here, of not seeing him for months, made her chest ache. The guards were given food and lodging for the night before their return journey. Peter was shown to a small cabin at the edge of the camp, spartanly furnished but clean. Brenna walked with him, the clan watching their every move. "Well," Peter said, looking around the cabin, "this is cozy. Reminds me of the barracks at the holding, only with more suspicious onlookers." "Peter, you do not have to do this. I can still go back, face trial." He turned to her, taking both her hands. "Brenna, stop. This is happening. It is the right choice. We both know it." I do not want to leave you here. I do not want you to stay. One of us has to be free, and it is going to be you. I will be fine. Your family seems stern but fair. I will work hard, keep my head down, and before you know it, the season will be over. That is half a year. Then we will have a lot to talk about when we see each other again. He pulled her closer, his voice dropping. Brenna, I need you to do something for me. Anything. Live. Really live. You have been in a cage for 9 years. Now you are out. Do not waste this time worrying about me. Go places, see things, figure out what you want from life. When I come back, tell me all about it. Tears burned her eyes. I already know what I want. What? You. His smile was bright enough to hurt. Good, then you will wait for me. Yes, however long it takes. He kissed her then, gentle and careful, a promise more than a passion. Brenna memorized the feel of it, the warmth of his mouth, the steadiness of his hands on her waist, the way he tasted like hope and recklessness and love. When they pulled apart, her mother was standing in the doorway, expression stern. Brenna, come. The guards are leaving at dawn, and you will go with them. Brenna glanced at Peter, who nodded. She followed her mother out of the cabin, her heart breaking with every step. That night she stayed in her mother's house, unable to sleep. Beatrice sat with her, holding her hand like she had when they were children. You love him, Beatrice said quietly. Yes. And he loves you enough to do this. Yes. Then he is either the bravest man I have ever heard of or the biggest fool, probably both. Brenna laughed weakly. Probably. He will be all right, Brenna. Mother will make sure of it. She will not let him be harmed. It would dishonor the agreement, I know, but I still hate leaving him. Then make his sacrifice worth it. Live the life you could not live as a ward. Be happy. That is what he wants for you. Brenna nodded, knowing her sister was right but unable to shake the ache in her chest. At dawn, the guards prepared to leave. Brenna said goodbye to her family, promising to write to visit when she could. Her mother embraced her stiffly, pride and concern warring in her expression. You have given much for this clan, her mother said. Now take what you deserve, and trust that we will keep our word. I do, thank you. Peter walked her to the edge of the camp, the guards giving them a moment of privacy. He looked calm, settled, as if he had already accepted his new reality. So, he said, this is not how I imagined our great adventure ending. It is not ending, it is just pausing. Right, a very long pause. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his touch lingering. Go, Brenna, be free, and when the summer comes I will find you wherever you are. I will be waiting. I know you will. You are stubborn that way. I love that about you. She kissed him one more time, trying to pour everything she felt into it, love and gratitude and hope and sorrow. Then she mounted her horse and rode away, not looking back, because if she did, she would not be able to leave. The journey back to the holding passed in a blur. The guards reported to Magistrate Holden, who accepted the clan's agreement with visible relief. Brenna collected her few remaining belongings and left that same day, unwilling to spend another night within walls that had held her for so long. She rode west, the direction she and Peter had taken during their brief, beautiful flight. She had coins saved from her ward's stipend, enough to live modestly for a few months. She found work at a farmstead, helping with the harvest in exchange for room and board. The work was hard but satisfying, and the farmer and his wife asked no questions about her past. Winter came, and Brenna moved to a village, taking a job at a mill. She learned the work quickly, enjoying the rhythm of it, the tangible results. She made friends slowly, other laborers, traveling merchants, a widow who ran the boarding house where Brenna rented a room. She wrote letters to Peter, though she had no way to send them. She poured her days into the pages, describing the places she saw, the people she met, the slow unfurling of her new life. She saved them in a bundle, tied with string, waiting. Spring arrived, melting the snow, coaxing green from the earth. Brenna left the village and found work at a coaching inn on a busy trade road, serving travelers and tending the stables. She was good at the work, efficient and friendly, and the innkeeper paid her well. She thought about Peter constantly. Wondered how he was surviving the clan's work, if he had won anyone over, if he was counting the days as she was. The season crept by with agonizing slowness, each week a small eternity. Summer finally came, blazing and bright. Brenna's term as ward had been set to end at midsummer, which meant Peter's term would end then too. She requested time off from the inn and rode back toward the borderlands, her heart pounding with anticipation and fear. What if he had changed his mind? What if the season among her clan had made him realize that loving an orc was too complicated, too costly? What if he resented her for the sacrifice he had made? She pushed the thoughts away and rode on. She reached the river valley in the late afternoon, the camp bustling with activity. The clan was in the midst of preparing for some kind of celebration, tables set up in the open air, children running everywhere. Brenna dismounted and walked into the camp, searching for a familiar face. Beatrice found her first, grinning. "You are early. The release ceremony is not until tomorrow." "I could not wait. Where is he?" "Is he? See for yourself." Beatrice pointed toward the fields beyond the camp. Brenna followed the gesture and saw a figure in the distance, working among the rows of grain. Even from here she recognized his rangy build, his easy movements, Peter. She started walking, then running, her feet carrying her across the uneven ground. He must have heard her coming because he straightened, shading his eyes against the sun. When he recognized her, his face split into that brilliant, devastating smile. Brenna crashed into him and he caught her, lifting her off her feet, laughing. She buried her face in his shoulder, breathing him in sweat and earth and safety. "You came," he said into her hair. "I knew you would, but you came." "Of course I came. Did you think I would not?" "I hoped." "Hoping is safer than knowing." He set her down, keeping his arms around her. "Gods, I missed you. Do you know how long a season is when you are counting every single day?" "Yes," she said, laughing and crying at the same time. "Yes, I know." He looked good, thinner, browner from the sun, but healthy. His hands were calloused in new places and there was a scar on his forearm that had not been there before. But his eyes were the same, warm and steady and full of love. "How was it?" she asked. "Truly." "Hard," he admitted. "Your people do not make things easy, but fair. They treated me the way they would treat any newcomer, with suspicion and tests and constant judgment. But when I proved I could work, that I was not going to break or run, they started to soften. Your mother still does not like me much, but Gren has decided I am acceptable. He taught me to forge basic tools. I am terrible at it, but I am improving. You learned smithing, among other things. Farming, building, a bit of the language. Your nephew taught me how to swear in orc. Very useful skill." He touched her face gently, his thumb brushing her cheek. "But tell me about you. Where did you go? What did you do?" she told him, the words spilling out. The farm, the mill, the inn. The people she had met, the work she had learned, the slow, precious discovery of who she was outside the role of ward. He listened intently, asking questions, delighting in the details. "You served drinks. You, the serious woman who barely talked to anyone at the holding. I learned. I got better at it. Turns out I am decent at conversation when I am not constantly worried about being satisfactory. I could have told you that. You are excellent at conversation. I have been having conversations with you in my head all season." That sounds lonely. It was. But knowing you were out there, living and free, made it bearable. He kissed her forehead. "I am so glad you are here. Tomorrow we can leave and then what? And then we figure it out, together." The next day the clan held the release ceremony. It was a formal affair, witnessed by the elders and the entire camp. Brenna's mother declared Peter's term complete, his service honorable. The treaty obligation was satisfied, both sides having offered and received wards. Peter was free to go. There was a feast afterward, more celebration than Brenna had expected. It seemed her clan had come to respect Peter over the course of the season, enough to mark his departure with genuine good wishes. Gren clapped him on the shoulder hard enough to stagger him, announcing that Peter was acceptable for a human. Coming from Gren, it was high praise. As the evening wore on, Peter pulled Brenna aside, away from the noise and the crowd. They walked to the edge of the camp where the river ran silver under the stars. "There is something I need to ask you," Peter said, his voice unusually serious. Brenna's heart jumped. "All right. We have been through a lot, running away, coming back, a season apart. We have said we love each other, but we have not really talked about what comes next. I thought we were figuring it out together. We are, but I need to know what you want, really want, not just freedom from being a ward, but what kind of life you want to build." Brenna thought about it, about the question she had been asking herself for months. "I want a home. Not a holding or a camp, but a place that is mine. Ours. I want to wake up and choose my day, not have it dictated by duty or obligation. I want to grow things, make things, build something that lasts, and I want you there. Is that too much?" "That is not too much. That is perfect." He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small, holding it up to the starlight. A ring, simple and silver, with a small green stone set in the band. "I made this. Well, Gren helped, because I am still terrible at smithing, but the design is mine. The stone is from the river near the holding where we used to talk. I have been carrying it for weeks, waiting for the right moment." Brenna's breath caught. "Peter, Brenna Marrick, will you marry me? Will you build that life with me wherever we end up? Will you let me love you for as long as we both live?" The answer rose in her like the sun, bright and inevitable. "Yes. Yes, absolutely yes." He slid the ring onto her finger and it fit perfectly, the green stone catching the light. Then he kissed her, deep and joyful, and Brenna felt the last piece of her heart slot into place. They were married a week later, at a small shrine in the mountain pass west of the borderlands. It was a simple ceremony, just the two of them and a traveling priest who blessed their union without question or judgment. Brenna wore a dress Beatrice had made for her, green as her skin, embroidered with silver thread. Peter wore his best shirt and a vest Gren had gifted him, declaring that he could not let a human get married looking like a vagabond. They spoke their vows with the mountains watching, promising love and loyalty, partnership and trust. When the priest pronounced them married, Peter kissed her like it was the first time and the last time all at once, and Brenna laughed against his mouth, giddy with happiness. They descended from the mountains into new country, land neither of them had seen before. It was frontier territory, wild and open, dotted with small settlements and farmsteads. They traveled slowly, taking their time, stopping in villages to work for a few weeks before moving on. Peter took jobs as a laborer, a stable hand, a courier again when the opportunity arose. Brenna worked beside him, learning new skills, discovering strengths she had not known she possessed. Everywhere they went, they faced stares and whispers. A human and an orc married, traveling together. It was strange to most people, unsettling to some. But Peter met the suspicion with his usual charm, and Brenna met it with quiet competence, and slowly, people relaxed. They were just a couple, looking for work and a place to settle. That was not so strange. They found the place in late autumn, a year after Peter's release. It was a small farmstead in a river valley, abandoned by the previous owners who had moved to the city. The land was good. The house needed work but was structurally sound, and the price was within their means, just barely. They bought it with the money they had saved, pooling every coin from months of labor. It was theirs, the first thing that had ever truly belonged to them. They spent the winter repairing the house, sealing the roof, patching the walls, building furniture from scrap wood. Peter proved surprisingly handy, his time with Gren having taught him basic carpentry. Brenna focused on the land, planting the garden, clearing the fields for spring planting. It was hard work, exhausting and endless, but it was theirs. Every nail Peter drove, every seed Brenna planted was a choice they made together. They were building something, and it felt like the most important work either of them had ever done. Spring came, and they planted their first crops: vegetables, grain, herbs. Brenna's knowledge from her clan combined with Peter's quick learning, and the garden flourished. They traded produce with the nearest village, making connections, building relationships. Summer brought heat and growth and long days of work. They fell into a rhythm, comfortable and easy. Peter would tell her stories while they worked, making her laugh until her sides hurt. Brenna would teach him songs from her childhood, orc melodies that sounded strange in his voice but beautiful anyway. They made love in their small house, in the garden under the stars, in the river when the heat grew unbearable. They learned each other slowly, thoroughly, taking the time they had never had before. Peter was gentle and playful, patient when Brenna was uncertain, delighted by every sound she made. Brenna was bold in ways that surprised her, reveling in the freedom to touch and be touched, to claim and be claimed. One evening in late summer, they sat on the porch of their house, watching the sun set over the fields. Brenna leaned against Peter's shoulder, his arm around her waist, feeling utterly content. "You ever regret it?" Peter asked quietly. "Everything that happened, the running, the coming back, the season apart." Brenna thought about it, about the question she had been asked and answered a dozen times in her own mind. "No, I regret that it was hard. I regret that you had to sacrifice so much, but I do not regret where it brought us. Good, because I do not regret it either. Best decision I ever made, saying yes in that stable. Even the part where you had to live with my clan for 6 months, even that. It was good for me, taught me things I needed to learn, patience, humility, how to swear an orc." He kissed the top of her head. "And it gave you time to figure out who you are outside of being a ward. We both needed that." She tilted her head to look at him. "I love you. I love you too, every day more than the day before. It is actually getting ridiculous. Soon I will not be able to function because I will be too busy loving you." That sounds like a problem. A wonderful problem. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars come out. Brenna thought about how far they had come from a holding where she was a ward and he was a courier, to this small farm where they were simply partners, building a life together. "What do you think happens next?" she asked. "Next," Peter considered. "Well, we finish the harvest. We get through the winter. In the spring we plant again. Maybe we get some chickens. I have always wanted chickens. Chickens. Very useful animals. Eggs, meat, entertainment. What more could you want?" I was thinking more long-term. So was I. Chickens are a long-term investment, Brenna. You have to raise them, feed them, protect them from foxes. It is a whole thing. She laughed, poking his ribs. "I mean us, our future." "I know what you meant." He pulled her closer, his voice softening. "I think we keep doing this, building, growing, loving each other. Maybe someday we have children if you want that. Maybe we expand the farm, hire help, become pillars of the community. Or maybe we keep it small and simple, just the two of us and the chickens. Either way, we decide together. I would like children. Someday. Then we will have children. Someday." He kissed her temple. "We have time, Brenna. All the time in the world. We do not have to figure it all out tonight. She relaxed into him, letting the truth of that settle into her bones. They had time. They were free. They were together. The seasons turned. Autumn brought the harvest, and their first crop was modest but successful. They sold enough to pay their debts and buy supplies for the winter. Peter did indeed get chickens, 6 of them, and spent an inordinate amount of time building them a coop and naming them. Brenna teased him mercilessly, but she also loved watching him with the birds, patient and gentle, talking to them like they could understand. Winter was quiet, a time of rest and repair. They spent long evenings by the fire, reading, talking, planning for the spring. Brenna taught Peter more of the orc language, and he taught her card games he had learned on the road. They made love under heavy blankets, slow and sweet, and fell asleep tangled together against the cold. Spring came again, their second on the farm. Brenna woke one morning feeling strange, a queasiness in her stomach that had not been there before. It took her a week to recognize the signs, another week to be certain. She told Peter one evening in the garden while they were planting the early vegetables. She had rehearsed what to say, but when the moment came, the words tumbled out plain and simple. "I am pregnant." Peter froze, a seedling half planted in his hand. He looked up at her, eyes wide. "What? I am pregnant. I am fairly sure. About 2 months along, I think." He dropped the seedling and stood, crossing to her in 2 strides. "You are sure as I can be without a midwife. We need to find a midwife. We need to," he stopped, apparently overwhelmed. Then a grin spread across his face, bright as the sun. "We are going to have a baby." "Yes." He picked her up and spun her around, laughing. Brenna clung to his shoulders, laughing too, caught up in his joy. When he set her down, he cupped her face in his hands, suddenly serious. "Are you happy? Is this what you want?" "Yes, I am happy. I want this. I want a family with you." "Then we are going to have the best family. Our child is going to be so loved, so incredibly, ridiculously loved." He was right. The baby, when she arrived in the early winter, was loved beyond measure. A girl, small and perfect, with her mother's green skin and her father's gray eyes. They named her Vera, and she was the brightest thing in their world. Peter was an absurdly devoted father, singing to Vera, telling her stories, carrying her everywhere. Brenna watched him with their daughter and felt her heart swell until it hurt. This was the life she had wanted, the home she had dreamed of. It was real, and it was theirs. Vera grew quickly, curious and bold. By her second summer, she was toddling around the farm, investigating everything, chattering in a mix of common and orc words. Peter taught her the names of the chickens, and she adopted them as her personal flock, following them around and trying to herd them like sheep. When Vera was 3, Brenna found herself pregnant again. Another girl, born in the spring, with her mother's pointed ears and her father's crooked smile. They named her Bella, and she was quieter than Vera, more thoughtful, content to sit and watch the world rather than charge into it. The farm grew with the family. They hired help during the busy seasons, local farmhands who worked for fair wages and did not care that their employers were an orc and a human. The community around them had slowly come to accept them, to see them as people rather than oddities. Brenna and Peter were known as hard workers, good neighbors, fair traders. It was enough. Years passed, measured in harvests and birthdays, in children's laughter and quiet evenings. Peter's hair started to gray at the temples. Brenna found herself moving a bit slower, her joints protesting after long days of work. But they were happy, deeply and simply happy. One evening, when Vera was 10 and Bella was 7, the family sat together on the porch, watching the sunset. The girls were playing a game with sticks and stones, making up elaborate rules. Peter and Brenna sat close, his hand in hers, comfortable in the silence. "You remember the stable?" Brenna asked suddenly. That night when it rained and I asked you to take me far from here, Peter smiled. Every detail. You looked terrified and determined, and I fell even more in love with you right then. I thought I was asking for the impossible. You were, and we did it anyway. He squeezed her hand. Best impossible thing I ever did. Brenna looked at their daughters, at the farm they had built, at the life they had made from nothing but hope and stubbornness. You did take me far from there, not in distance, but in everything that matters. We took each other. That is how it works. She leaned her head on his shoulder, breathing in the smell of growing things and home. I love you, Peter Xander. I love you, Brenna Xander, always have, always will. The sun sank below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. The chickens settled into their coop. The girls' game dissolved into giggles. The evening star appeared, bright and steady, and Brenna made a wish the way she had as a child. She wished for this to last, for her family to stay healthy and happy, for her daughters to grow up free, unchained by the prejudices and obligations that had shaped her own youth. For Peter to always look at her the way he did now, like she was the best thing that ever happened to him. The stars came out one by one, filling the sky with light, and Brenna's wish felt less like hope and more like promise. They had built this, she and Peter. Against the odds, against the rules, against everything that said it could not work. They had chosen each other and kept choosing each other every day, and they would keep choosing each other for all the days to come. Years later, when Vera and Bella were grown and starting their own lives, when Peter's hair had gone fully silver and Brenna's hands were gnarled with age and work, they would sit on that same porch and tell the story. How they met at a border holding, how she begged him to take her far from there, how he said yes without hesitation, how they ran and returned and sacrificed and waited, how they built a life from love and stubbornness and the sheer refusal to let the world tell them who they could be. Their grandchildren would listen, wide-eyed, asking questions. Was it scary? Were people mean? Did you ever want to give up? And Peter would grin, that same reckless, brilliant grin, and say, never, not once. Your grandmother asked me for the impossible, and I have been delivering ever since. And Brenna would shake her head, smiling, and correct him. We delivered, together, because that was the truth, the simple and profound truth that had carried them through everything. They were stronger together than apart. They were braver together than alone. And the love they built, messy and hard-won and absolutely real, was worth every risk, every sacrifice, every impossible moment. Their story was not a fairy tale. It was better. It was true, and it was theirs.